What if you could use BigQuery to interactively sentiment mine your largest datasets in just seconds? Today, we're going to show how BigQuery can measure anxiety on CNN over the last 6 months using just a single query. Welcome back to GDELT Tutorials. Now, BigQuery isn't typically thought of as a text analytics platform, but it turns out with a little creativity, we can perform interactive petascale analyses with a single query. Now, today, we're going to start with a classic data science question. You've just been asked, with the COVID-19 pandemic this year, is anxiety increasing in television news? Now, coincidentally, in collaboration with the Internet Archive's Television News Archive, we actually have an Ngram dataset over television news stretching back more than a decade. And there are also myriad anxiety measures that are out there, dictionaries that work bag of words. So how might we use BigQuery to combine these two? So with that, let's get started. How does sentiment mining work? Historically, sentiment mining was performed by breaking a document into words and counting up how many of those words appeared in a given sentiment dictionary. Despite dating to the punch card era, this bag of words approach still works quite well. For today's analysis, we're going to use Colin Martindale's Regressive Imagery Dictionary, which includes an anxiety dimension. I've gone ahead and downloaded it as a CSV file and uploaded it into BigQuery as a table. You can see it's a pretty simple word list, basically one word per row. Similarly, here's our television news Ngrams dataset. This is the unigrams table. It's a really simple structure. You've got the timestamp. Remember, this is in 10-minute resolution. Timestamp, date, station, hour, Ngram, how many times it appeared in that given 10 minutes, and the name of the show. Pretty straightforward. So how do we combine these two? So to save time, I've gone ahead and pasted in the query. And what you see here is pretty straightforward. This first select here essentially goes through a given day of television on CNN, and it goes through all the words there. It says how many of these words appeared in the anxiety dictionary and counts them up for that day. Same thing, this second select here does the same thing, but counts up all the words, whether they showed up in that dictionary or not. And then, of course, this outer select simply divides the counts in the anxiety dictionary by all the words in that day, and the end result being the percentage of the words appearing that day that were in the anxiety dictionary. Doesn't really get any simpler than that. But now, before we actually run this query, you'll notice down here it says this query will process 88 gigs when run. Now, here's the exact same query, but where I've gone ahead and put in these two date restrictors here. Because again, remember, we're only interested in 2020 here. Now, this is what's known as a partition table, where BigQuery actually divides up the table by day. And so now you'll notice down here, instead of 88 gigs, we're only going to query 7 gigs. So that really shows you how powerful partition tables really are. So let's go ahead and run this query. We hit run here. And it's running, and boom. In 2.7 seconds, it processed that and gave us our table here. Now let's go ahead and just download this as a CSV file. Download it here. And then let's go ahead and run this in Microsoft Excel. Now let's go ahead and make a graph out of this. So we're going to come here. We're going to select anxiety, insert, make a graph. Now this is fascinating, actually. If you look at this, we can see that anxiety was quite high coming into the start of a year. That's not uncommon. Start of a year, there's a lot of questions. What's going to happen this year? But then we notice that, after the first couple days of the year, anxiety goes down. The year is starting to settle in. We know what's going to happen this year. It goes down, but then you notice it levels off all of a sudden. If we look at these dates, we can see it levels off on January 22nd. That's when the COVID-19 pandemic first started coming to media attention. Now we can see anxiety just start skyrocketing as there's shutdowns and things are happening all over the world. We have no idea what's going to happen. and then it peaks around March 16th and levels off. By that point, here in the US, most of the cities that were going to do lockdowns had their lockdowns. We'd sort of settled out what was going to happen. There wasn't much more to say. What happened was happened, and we were just kind of in a holding pattern at that point. You can see it stays at this point till April 5th, starts going down, levels off again in mid-April, kind of go. Then we can see it starts decreasing as the George Floyd protests take over. And then we can see it all of a sudden pauses again around June 3rd or so. And it's been rising every single day as the pandemic's been roaring back to the forefront. As infections have surged and, as the country starts wondering what's going to happen. But what if you don't already have your data converted to handy engrams? Take a look at this blog post from last week. We walk through what it looks like to upload 500 million documents to BigQuery, and then using its built-in Unicode regular expression and string operators to remove the punctuation, and then uses BigQuery's built-in ml.engrams function to, with a single command, chop the document into engrams of any length, handling all of the windowing seamlessly. So there you have it, a single SQL query in a few seconds, and we visualize the anxiety of CNN over 2020. Thanks for joining us, and we hope you tune in next time.